Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to another Brograph tutorial. I am Dave Koss, and today we're going to be talking about XREFs, but not just about XREFs, but about how it can work to your advantage if you're working in a collaborative situation. A lot of times now, if you're like me, you'll be working on a project and it may turn out to be a really big project and you need some help. So you might call somebody else you know who does cinema and say, hey, I want you to do some 3D stuff. Well, if you're collaborating on a project and it's kind of in the same scene, you kind of have to either both work on the scene separately and then cut pieces out and paste them into your project, or you might try and work together in Dropbox or something like that. And what I am trying to do is to bring in some more tutorials about how to manage your files and about how to manage projects. So I'm going to start today by doing that a little bit. A really great way to manage projects is by using Dropbox, because Dropbox will take your file and it will upload it and then it will send it back down to another computer and sync everything, which is really nice, especially for renders. If you have a client that's putting together some sort of graphics package and you're responsible for just some of the 3D, you could actually render straight to your Dropbox, which will send those files into their Dropbox as it renders, which is awesome, because if they have something like an image sequence going on in After Effects, as you're rendering, those pieces will be coming in. So especially if you have a really big project that takes a long time to render, that's really cool. The other thing that you can use it for is collaborating on 3D stuff. So you could have kind of a project directory structure set up in your Dropbox, and it's synced to someone else's Dropbox, and you have a shared textures folder and shared resources folder, maybe audio, maybe stuff like that, movies, Photoshop files. But then for cinema, what do you do if you both want to work on the same scene? You can't have it open at the same time, or you're going to have a collision. You know, your files are going to be different. You're going to end up overwriting somebody's file. And the method that I found that works the best is if you use Xref Objects. So you have the project that you're working on together in Dropbox, and then somebody works on different pieces, and you work on the project as a whole, or vice versa. And you use placeholders in the project. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Now in Cinema, I'm going to start off with a scene and I'm going to save it. And it's going to be my Xref project in my Cinema folder. This is going to be my master comp, so I'm going to call it master. And I'm going to go ahead and change my settings so that I'm working in HD. Now, for this example, let's say that I'm putting together a shelf in a room, and there's a lot of little things that have to go on the shelf, and I need somebody to help me build all those objects so I can continue and build the rest of the room, maybe a table and a bed and windows and curtains and all that other stuff. So I'm going to start with a cube, and I'm going to make it thin. Now this is not a mathematically perfect shelf that we're building. This is just for reference, so I'm going to be real kind of sloppy with it here. This is the back wall of my shelf, and I'm going to hold down Command while I Shift rotate so that I hit exactly 90 degrees and I duplicate at the same time. And I'm going to make it short, and then I'm going to Command click, and I'm going to make duplicates of these shelves. We're not worried about what this looks like today. Alright, there are my shelves on the shelf. And I'll just copy and drop another one to the bottom. Close enough, okay? So my shelf is good to go, and I'm going to start putting objects on the shelf. Now, what I'm going to do is go up to Create, and I'm going to say Xref Add Xref. And it's going to ask me what I want to use for that Xref. Well, we don't have anything yet. So, over on another computer, I call up my friend, and I say, hey, I want to share this project with you. And so I bust out my Dropbox and I've made a folder called Shelf. And I'm going to go into my project I was working on, and I'm going to decide to move it over here. And I'm going to actually work out of the Dropbox folder because it is a local folder, which is fine. And so, just going to copy that right over here. Now here in this file, I'm going to go ahead and close it out. Saved. I'm going to open this master file, my version in Dropbox that I'm now sharing. And when I talk to my friend, he goes over to his computer and he looks at his Dropbox, which I've shared with him, and he gets a little notification that something was added. You can see here is the exact same layout right here. Here's Cinema 4D, and here's that master file. Well, he's not worried about the master file, but he is going to start building some things. So you can start out with a really basic project that has a placeholder at about the scale you're going to use. So I'm just kind of in default centimeters, but let's say you were working with real scale, you were working with shelves. Maybe you start with something that's about a foot tall, and you make a cube that's about a foot tall. I'm going to save this. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for my my output. I don't have presets over here. I'm going to go to 1080, just so they're the same. Not sure if that even matters really. I don't think it does. And I'm going to save back into that directory. I'm going to go back to Shelf, into my Cinema 4D folder where I keep my Cinema 4D projects, and I'll call this Shelf Item 1. Alright, so that is saved, and now on my end that file syncs. I go to Create and go to Xref and Add an Xref, and now in my Dropbox folder under Shelf, I can see Shelf Item 1 has been created by my friend who's working on the other end of Dropbox. Alright, now I put it in there and it's pretty big. If you're working with correct scale, that probably won't happen, but you may at some point have to change the size. Make sure that you click right here and you're in object mode, not model mode, because you want to make sure that your scale actually takes into effect and it stays that way. If you don't have that on and you scale stuff, when you start updating your items, they're not going to work correctly. Also, make sure that you're working with the parent item here, not any of the items below. We're working with this parent item right now. So I'm going to scale this down and I'm going to place it on the shelf. Okay, so this is going to be my first item on the shelf. And I'm going to save. Now, again, I'm working on other things in this room. I've got everything placed on the shelf. Maybe I have a bunch of Xref objects. And my friend over here decides he's going to start working. He's going to design some sort of statue or weird modern art. Because that's what we're going to do here. I'm making like a boxy triangle thing with a sphere on top. Doesn't really matter. Alright. Modern art created. Now when I hit save here, it's going to save to Dropbox. And then I'm me again, back here working on my master project. And I should get a notification pretty soon that my Dropbox was updated. There it is. Now, those are growl notifications, by the way. So if I click on my Xref object here, I have a little reload button at the bottom, and when I hit that, this comes right in. I can see that's still a little bit too big. I'll scale that down a little bit, but this is how it works. You keep working on your project, somebody else is working on another project, you don't have any collisions, which is nice. You can even do multiples. Right here, if I decide that I want to add another object, I'm going to add another similar object, except maybe the cone's going to be facing this way, and Just move this out here. And maybe this one doesn't have the ball, the sphere. Maybe it has, I don't know, a capsule inside of it. Modern art. I'm going to put that in this null. So you can see there's two nulls here. There's the first null we created, and there's the second null right here. Now when I hit save, and it goes back through its sync process through Dropbox, I get my notification. And I click on this item, and I'm going to reload it. Now, there's the two objects. Now, here's the cool thing. If I'm working with these two objects and I decide that I want to put them in different places, I have full control over the nulls here. If I select that child null, which is a reference to the null that my friend would be working on the other side, I can actually move these around, and it will retain those values. So again, we go back to my friend and I say, hey, I don't like that you got a cone on there. So he changes that. He turns this thing this way, and let's say he makes it a little bit bigger, and then he saves it. Well, then back on my end here, I get my notification, and I reload, and you can see everything changed, but they in the underlying nulls that are set up here, they retain their place in XYZ space, which is really nice. XREFs are great for this. Usually people don't use XREFs for this. They use them for kind of the same principle, but it's for multiple projects that they're working on at the time. Like they have different pieces that they're going back and forth between. Using this with Dropbox is an awesome way to collaborate, especially if you're a contractor and you got a bunch of contractor friends, or you're working with a client and you're working from home. This is just about as seamless as you can get with something like this. So that's about it. I hope this was helpful for you. If you would like to check out more of our tutorials, please go to Brograph.com. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, and you'll get a notification every time we come out with a new tutorial. We're really ramping it up right now for the spring. Please like us on Facebook as well. Add us on Twitter. All that social stuff, we're all up in there. And we're on the Reddit Cinema 4D subreddit, which is a great place. There's a lot of cool people there and a lot of interactivity, and everybody there has been really supportive. So that's it. I'm Dave Koss, and I'll talk to you later, bros. It's pretty good, I guess.